Greetings, Commanders! My name is Eagle, and in today's video, we are doing a complete officer guide for Grace. So if you like these types of videos, we'll give you guides and tips about officers, their skills, talent trees, and natural pairings. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video for more content in Case of War, as we are in the official content creation team of Case of War. So in this video, we're going to cover the different combinations for skills of Grace, depending on the role that you're using her for. We're going to as well talk about her different talent tree combinations, in addition to how to obtain her badges, and lastly, her best pairings, depending on the role that you're using her for. So, first of all, before we start the video, I just wanted to say that right now we're trying to create more shorter videos that are more focused to be straight to the point, as I've been getting these requests lately. So we've been trying to create shorter videos in the realm of 12 to 18 minutes. I'm targeting this basic realm so that actually we can cover as much information in that realm. And if we try, if there's a video that actually requires more time, we're definitely going to be adding timestamps as well, so you guys can jump whatever part you want to watch. So let's get right into this video then. So for the skills, the first skill actually does a damage in a half circular radius in front of the officer. So wherever the officer is pointing at, she will deal damage to up to 3 targets, and when awakened, she will deal damage up to 5 targets right in front of her, of a 1000 damage multiplier, which is a pretty solid damage multiplier, in addition to reducing the damage received by her troops by 30% when maxed out. I think this is a very solid ability and skill, or active skill, and I would definitely max it out immediately. So this is the first priority that you should be looking for, because this one is pretty good, especially versus multiple marches in the field when you are trying to attack multiple marches at the same time. And this is what we call swarming. So when you're being swarmed, you can actually attack multiple targets at the same time with this active skill. Now, her second skill is actually more specialized for tanks, because she is a tank specialized officer. She also specializes in garrison and defense, and we're going to go through these in a minute. However, for her second skill, it's a passive skill that increases the defense, attack, and speed of your tanks by 15% for defense and attack, and 10% for speed. I think this is a pretty solid passive skill as well if you are trying to use her as a tank officer, and I will get into that in a minute. So the third skill over here, what it does is that when you're actually serving as a garrison officer, you can increase the attack of your troops by 10%. It doesn't really matter which troop types you have. It will increase all the attack of the overall troops, doesn't matter which type, by 10%. The last ability over here, or skill, increases your counterattack damage. And if you guys don't know what a counterattack damage is, it's basically when your march is being attacked by multiple troops, and what happens is that when you are taking damage from a troop that isn't tanking the main hit, for example, let's say you were battling 1 versus 1 and there's another troop from the enemy that is attacking your troops as well. The amount of damage that you'll be dealing to that specific march is called counterattack damage. So what happens is that this skill over here actually increases that damage by 30%, and 30%, guys, is a huge amount, because I do believe that counterattack damage by default is 50% of your normal attack damage. So let's say if you're dealing 1000 per hit, you would be dealing 500 normal attack damage with that march. And with this specific skill, you'll be dealing 30% more damage, adding up to 80% total counterattack damage, which I think is pretty solid. This is because of the fact that if you are being swarmed, you will still deal a lot of damage to all the different marches that are attacking that specific march that has Grace in it. So this way you would actually inflict more damage to multiple targets, which I think is phenomenal in this officer. When awakened, she will have like a small buff to her damage multiplier of 200, and in addition to attacking or raising the limit of troops and marches that can be attacked in the first ability to up to 5. Now, this raise over here, I don't think it's really that great because of the fact that when you're being swarmed, it's really hard to find 5 targets that are right in front of you to attack unless they are trying to march in that place and try, like, if you're like in a huge fight, like I would imagine this would be good only when you're like in a huge fight, when there's like, I don't know, like hundreds of marches, right? Or like 50 marches, and this would like be a situation, for example, when you are trying to fight for the artwork in Raiders near the museum, where you will be finding like, I don't know, like 20 marches in front of you. So this ability would actually be good in that situation, but otherwise it wouldn't be that effective, especially when you're just normally fighting in the field with like multiple troops, or even being swarmed in the field, because when you're being swarmed, troops tend to actually form a circular let's say radius around you. This way you won't actually be able to attack all these troops, and 3 would be more than enough. So this is my thoughts about the awakening over here. Now, the roles of Grace. Grace has 2 main roles depending on how you want to play her. Her main role is actually for defense and garrisoning. However, she has a secondary role as well, which is basically most obvious, which is the tank. So if you want to use her as a field officer, this works as well. However, you have to take care over here because this is very important. Now, the skill prioritization for these roles highly depend on what you're going to play her. So if you're going to choose to play her as a tank officer that fights PvP in the field, or even helps in Normandy, Raiders, whatever PvP fight you're looking for, I would build for always build the first ability, no matter what. Actually, so if you're choosing the defense role as well, you have to max out the first skill first because it is just phenomenal. Now, for tank role, I would go for the tank. The second skill over here as to give maximum buffs for tanks. So I would max out this skill over here. And then afterwards, I would go ahead and max out her 4th skill immediately, and then her 3rd skill over here. This is because you are going to use her as a PvP and not as a garrison officer. However, if you're going to use her as a garrison officer, then I would change the ability prioritization. I would go for the first one, and then I would go for the 4th one immediately. That increases the counterattack damage. And then for the 3rd one, and lastly, the 2nd one over here. This is because of the fact that when you are trying to defend in your base, you don't only have tank troops in your base, you actually have multiple troops that will be, that this ability won't actually affect. So the other types of troops, so let's say, for example, I have 1.3 million troops in my base, which is the current case right now. I have about 400k tanks, and the rest 900k are different types of troops. So this passive skill over here will be benefiting the tanks, but it won't be benefiting any single type of the other troops. So however, these 2 skills do benefit all kind of troops. So this is why I would focus on them first if I'm trying to use her in defense role, and then lastly go for the 2nd skill. Now, how to obtain Grace? Grace is actually obtainable throughout 2 ways. The first way is the elite recruitment over here. You can find her in the elite recruitment rewards over here as a full officer or as her badges. And you can as well use legendary badges to upgrade her, of course. In addition to that, you can obtain her from the daily specials over here in the legendary officer, something called Rose Agents accessories. So in Rose Agents accessories, you can actually open this box over here, and it will give you you will have a chance to actually obtain 1 to 10 Grace badges. Now, if you want a trick over here, there is always a chance for you to get Grace badges on a daily basis. So what you could do is actually buy, if you were to unlock her, in the fastest way possible, what I would recommend is getting the cheapest one over here, and then opening the Rose Agents box. If you were able to get Grace badges over here, then I would stop and not buy for that day, like not buy the rest of the packages. However, you still have a potential chance that you actually would get her, but to maximize the value for the money you are trying to spend, I would get like only one. And then if I didn't get it in the first one, then I would buy the Rising Star over here. If I didn't get it in the Rising Star, then I would go for the Battlefield Phantom and so on. But this way, you would actually save up more money and unlock potentially more badges because of the fact that you're actually like spending smartly on Grace. This is exactly what I did, and I reached out to this level. I stopped actually buying the daily packages after this level because eventually I will unlock her fully from the elite recruitment boxes, which I'm currently doing. So there's no need for me to further buy her officer badges. I don't really need her at this point in the game. However, I could actually awaken her later on in the game. Now for talents, there are two possible builds that you can go for in terms of defense. Now we're talking about the defense role purely. The build that I actually like to go for when I'm playing the defense role is actually going for counter charge over here, which gives you an additional 8% counter attack damage increase, which is pretty solid. And then I would go immediately for the damage, increasing the damage dealt by 3%, which is counterattack over here, and then go ahead and get defense strengthen. So it will increase the defense of my troops by 3%. Afterwards, I would go for talent specialty and then all the way down to urgent treatment. I think this specific talent over here is pretty solid due to the fact that you have a chance of 10% when you're doing normal attacks to actually heal your troops by a 250 healing multiplier. And imagine this, so you have like around in your base, like currently I have around 1.3 million troops, and 250 healing multiplier is actually a huge healing multiplier, especially because of the fact that all these troops will be like affecting the healing multiplier, and it will be a huge number eventually. So this is what I would recommend for you guys. Afterwards, immediately go for intense defense to get that sweet 4%. This actually is pretty solid as well because of the fact that every 3 seconds you would have 4% increased defense. The buff will go off for 2 seconds and then activate for another 3 seconds. So 3 seconds for plus 4 defense, and then 2 seconds no buff, and then 3 seconds plus 4 defense, and so on. Because this is, I think this is a pretty cool buff as well. Afterwards, I would go for tactical defense over here because of the fact that Grace is a pretty solid officer when it comes to swarming. So if your base is getting swarmed, then you will be being hit by multiple officers, which will be using multiple skills towards you. Now, decreasing the skill damage received by 10% when this is maxed out, I think is pretty solid due to the fact that you will be reducing more damage taken over time, especially paired with this one over here, which actually reduces a further 10% to the skill damage that you will be receiving. So this is a pretty solid build for Grace in terms of defense. Now, if you are gonna, there's a separate build that you would go for the garrison tree, max it out, and then go for the defense tree. But I really don't like this build. Some people are using it, but I really do like urgent treatment over here due to the fact that you would have like more trips over time, so that means more sustainability, and this way you can actually sustain more swarming troops and for a longer time, and you would inflict more damage to the enemies. So I do like this build that I just showed you more than the build that of the fully garrison and defense tree because of the fact that you can actually heal more troops. Now, if you are trying to build her as a tank officer, then what I would do is max out the tank tree all the way to tank mastery. But actually, before doing that, what I would do, especially because of the fact that, hey, I understand that she's a tank officer and understand that she is pretty solid, but I mean, this ability over here gives you an extra 8% counter attack damage. Now, even if she is a tank officer and she is pretty solid, but she has a main role in the game, which is basically attacking multiple targets at a time or being attacked with multiple targets at a time. Because this way, she would be dealing 88% counter attack damage, which I think is pretty solid due to the fact that you would be dealing almost the same amount of damage as you are doing to your normal attack damage to the main March that is attacking you. So what I would do after maxing out the tank tree all the way over here to tank mastery, I would go ahead and plug in all the points in the defense tree, going all the way down to total attack over here and focusing a little bit as well on combat worthy. So this is the build that I do recommend 100% for going as a tank role. Now, basically, this we covered a lot of ground about her. So she has mainly 3 skins over here. This one is a global bonus. I do recommend getting this one over here. It's an Acer Phantom. What it does is actually reduces the training time of the first unit or tank units of the day by an hour. And this one over here gives you a battle buff and 2 battle buffs actually, which gives you 1 troop health and 1 troop defense, which I think is pretty solid as well. So if you have these skins, they are pretty cool and they give you some pretty cool stuff too. So this was basically the skills, the talents, how to obtain her. Now let's start talking about what are her best pairings in the battlefield. So for best pairings, what I would go for, if you're trying to do a tank march that is very high sustainability, that has very high sustainability in the battlefield, what I would do is pair her with Natalia over here, or even right now with Abigail, because Abigail is very close to Natalia. She's mainly the free version of Natalia, I would say. Of course, Natalia has some crazy skills compared to Abigail, like much crazier. But Abigail is a pretty solid sustainability tank officer that I would definitely use her with if you're trying to create a sustainability tank officer, and definitely use her with Natalia. It doesn't really matter which officer you use as primary, as secondary, as long as you have one of them as 5 stars, then use that one as secondary and use the other one as primary, because this way you would be able to get the talent buffs as well. So if you're trying to use her in defense, however, I would change this and use a different type of officer. Now for defense, what you're trying to do over here is actually block multiple swarms, because she is not good when defending against rallies. She is pretty solid when defending against swarms. So what you need to do is actually pair her with an officer that is pretty good against swarms. And in that regard, you might be surprised, but I do believe that Riven is actually pretty good officer against swarms. This is due to the fact that she deals damage to multiple targets in the field, and this way I would go for infantry and skill over here. This is not a usual pairing that you would see, but if you're getting swarmed, then this pairing would definitely pay off for sure. Another pairing that could work as well is Lubna, due to the fact that she is a pretty solid she has a pretty solid first skill over here, which what it does is deal a huge damage multiplier in a circular radius to multiple troops. This way you would be attacking every single troop that is attacking your base at the same time. I understand that these are not usual pairings, especially for defense. However, I do believe that these pairings actually work when you are trying to, when you are getting swarmed, especially if you have a big number of troops in your base. So this was mainly it for defense. Of course, you can definitely pair her with the normal defense pairings, which are Natalia or Abigail. They do pretty good job as well, especially Natalia over here with that huge healing multiplier. You would be able to heal your troops in the base with that huge healing multiplier of 1400 and deal some massive damage as well, or deal some good debuffs and massive damage to swarming troops with the Awakened Legion of Iron active skill. So this was it for Grace. If you guys like these types of videos, and if you guys like this specific video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and give me your feedback about this series that we are doing about the officers. If you like this series, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and share this video, and maybe ring those bells so that you guys get notified whenever I drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.